Oh, what's up YouTube? This is NecroPro Gaming, and today I'm bringing you guys a Hearthstone Zoo deck profile. So Zoo is a deck that's very popular, like a lot of people play it, and it's going to become even more popular when Hunters get nerfed, when they nerf the Starving Buzzard and the Leroy. And yeah, it's a very cheap deck to make. A majority of these cards are common, and yeah, with the exception of cards like Doom Guard and Defender of Argus, you'll have most of these cards already, so it really shouldn't take too much dust to craft. That is a mouthful. But yeah, so we're going to be going through all the cards in the deck and why I use them. I reckon, I've tried a few different builds of this deck, and I reckon this is the one that I've had the most success with. And yeah, so let's get started with Soulfire. Soulfire is probably one of the best cards in the deck. 4 damage for 0 mana. It's very powerful. Of course you're discarding a card, but it's really not much of an issue because with the Warlock's life tap hero ability, you can just get another card back. Usually, I always lose the best card in my hand when I play it, but of course if you have no cards in your hand, then you can pretty much just deal 4 damage and not lose anything. And the same goes for Doom Guard down here. If you've got nothing in your hand, like say you just top deck him when you're in a bad spot, you can just play him and you won't lose anything. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, basically that 4 damage can be used to kill a minion that's annoying you, or it can just be used to hit their face if you want to kill them off quickly. Next card is Abusive Sergeant. This guy's really good. He's got some solid stats for a 1-drop, and he also pumps up your other minions so they can trade easily. A lot of people say that Zoo is like a rush deck or an aggro deck, but I reckon, at least the way I play it, it's more of a control deck. You kind of need to be the one who has control of the board, and that usually comes down to getting a good starting hand. Most of the time, I'd say probably 75% of games, I'll get a relatively good starting hand. It really just depends on what class my opponent's playing. If it's Hunter, I can never beat Hunter, so I'm pretty happy that they're getting nerfed, so no one will play it now. But back to Abusive Sergeant, you can do things like buff up your Argent Squire on turn 2, so it's basically a Scarlet Crusader, or you can buff up a Nerubian Egg and trade it with something, then get the 4/4. And it's also the same with Dark Iron Dwarf. I like Dark Iron Dwarf better than Abusive Sergeant, but a 4/4 for 4 is fine, and again just buffs up your minions. Is pretty handy to get. If you've got minions on the board, then you're never unhappy to draw him. Next up we have Argent Squire. It's a really solid 1-drop. Your opponents can't kill it straight away, which is nice. Takes 2 hits from Mage Hero Power and takes 2 attacks from the Rogue, things like that. And again, you can always buff it up really easily. It's likely to survive a few hits, and yeah, it's a handy card to have. Next up we have Elven Archer. A lot of people usually run Mortal Coil in Zoo, but I actually prefer the Elven Archer because with Mortal Coil you've got the chance to draw a card, which is handy, but Zoo can consistently draw cards anyway. The Elven Archer is better because it gives you a board presence, and you can buff it up and things like that. And it's only 1 mana as well, so you can easily play it. Flame Imp is probably tied first with the 1-drops in this deck, tied with Voidwalker. If you get any one of these in your opening hand, then you're going to do well. He does die to things like Holy Smite and Arcane Shot, but no one seems to play those anymore. And he can trade with things like other Voidwalkers and Northshire Clerics, which is really nice. Shield Bearer is another 1-drop, and yeah, basically it's just a 0/4 for 1. He'll protect you for a few turns in the early game, and then in the late game, he can save a hit as well. Voidwalker is another great card to play early game. It's so hard for your opponent to deal with, and yeah, it's got some pretty good stats. 1 attack will be able to make you trade with a lot of your opponent's early minions, and it can also be buffed up with a Direwolf Alpha, which will give it another 1 attack. Direwolf Alpha is also good with Shield Bearer as well, so that when they attack your taunts, they'll take a bit of damage with their minions as well. Nerubian Egg is probably one of the more important cards in the deck, I have to say. Basically, when you play this card, you don't want to straight away trade it in with something. It kind of depends on what class your opponent's playing. If they're playing like a mage or a priest or a Hunter or Paladin, then probably save this guy. You want to get him around turn 4 or 5, and then just kind of leave him there for a few turns, because when they do something like a Holy Nova or a Consecrate, then you'll get the 4/4. And same goes for Mage with Flame Strike. It just gives you a bit of insurance and kind of stops your opponent from wanting to use him. Harvest Golem is another Death Realm minion, and also if you get Flame Striked, then Harvest Golem will still be able to survive a bit. It's a 2/3 for 3, and you get a 2/1 when it dies, so it's a good sticky minion, and it's a good 3-drop as well. Scarlet Crusader, this card's kind of like a better Argent Squire in a way. Basically, again, it's hard to kill. It only has 1 health, which is a bit of a downside, but the Divine Shield will protect it, and usually you'll be able to trade pretty well with a minion. Next up we have Shattered Sun Cleric. This guy will buff up your other minions a lot. I like using him on things like Void Walker to have like a better taunt, or maybe Scarlet Crusader, things like that. It's just a really handy card to have. And yeah, we've already talked about Dark Iron Dwarf, so next up we have Defender of Argus. This card, the best way to use him is probably when you've got like 2 Scarlet Crusaders or Argent Squires next to each other. You can drop them in between them. If they've got their Divine Shields, then they'll be pretty hard for your opponent to deal with. And yeah, by itself is alright. But yeah, if you can put in between things like a Dark Iron Dwarf and maybe like an Arubian Egg, an Arubian thing, then it's pretty good as well. The last card we have is Doomguard. This card just won me a lot of games with this deck. Basically, it's a 5/7 for 7 with charge, which is really good. Its drawback is that you discard 2 random cards, but like with Soulfire, as I said, if you've got no cards in your hand, you're not going to be discarding anything. And like a lot of people will say, like you should always try and draw each turn with Zoo. I rarely draw, only if I'm in like a bad situation really. I find it's better to dump my hand. I mean, obviously Unleash the Hounds wrecks that, but you know, Hunters are getting nerfed soon, so it doesn't really matter. And yeah, again, you want to have as little cards in your hand as possible. Like you might have, there are some situations where you have a Doomguard in your hand and a Soulfire in your hand, and they're the only 2 cards, and it's kind of tricky to work out which one to play, but usually the Doomguard's better. And yeah, so that's the deck. I'm going to be doing another deck profile pretty soon. It's for a kind of budget token druid, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, maybe something to add to the deck or take out, then please let me know down in the comments. And yeah, so again, thanks for watching. Till next time, bye guys.